Hi, this is Craig with the Everyday Makers. I've got kind of a weird video that I've been kind of stressing over. It's about markers. Let's look at them. Okay. So like I mentioned, I've been kind of stressing over this video because really when it boils down to it, it's about markers, but it's a marker. Like, what do you say about it? So I tried to come up with somewhat of a way to kind of quantify what I'm even talking about and why I'm talking about it. To give you a little bit of backstory, I contacted Artline Markers. Artline makes some stuff that's some industrial purpose stuff, some stuff that's like fine artwork, really special pencils and markers and things like that. Very cool stuff. But I looked at them as an alternative for the Pika marker, the one that everybody is obsessed with. They seem to be very price competitive with the Pikas. So I've been trying to figure out if it's worth the money or not worth the money. So I contacted Artline and they said they would send me out a handful of markers, and I got a box with some kind of cool ones. I'll go over a little bit more in depth what all is in here. But they basically said they'd send me out some in exchange for an honest review. This will be me telling you what I actually think about it. This is not a sponsored video or anything like that. They just sent me some copies for review. So I gave them a shot. Here's what I got so far. To give you kind of a quick description as to why, the Pika marker, the one that everybody seems to be obsessed with, is a long tip marker. The whole, if you can even see that at all. The tip on it is really long and skinny. Everybody's obsessed with these because they can get down into cracks and things like that. And they make good marking pens for marking woodworking, for marking whatever you want to do. Artline markers, also long tip. Let's see that a little bit maybe. Yeah, also long tip. They're kind of direct competitors, the best I can tell. I don't know if they were meant to be direct competitors, but they kind of are serving the same purpose, so it's got potential. As far as the length of the tip, these are referred to, by the way, as the Artline Long-Nib markers. As far as the length of them goes, the Artline is winning by like a millimeter or two, but they're essentially the same thing. So distance-wise, essentially the same. The one thing that the Artline has, that hopefully you can kind of see here a little bit, the Artline, the overall length of the shaft at a whole is thinner. The Pika marker changes about halfway down and becomes kind of a different shape. Still slim, but not as slim as the Artline. The Artline is tiny all the way down. So that may or may not make a difference in your personal situation. I came up with a handful of tests, and these are some of the more common types of markers that I figured everybody comes up with as far as working in your own particular areas. Construction pencil, common, standard. They're all pretty much the same. This is nothing special. Only thing with this one is I sharpened it recently, so it's sharp. Sharpie thin markers, Sharpie fine tips. These little tiny guys. You really barely see there. These are the little fine tip ones. These are not the standard Sharpies that everybody uses. These are the fine tip ones that are meant for more accuracy. I just happen to have a Milwaukee Sharpie type thing. This is basically a Sharpie. There's no real huge difference. This is basically the same thing as everything else, just in a Milwaukee brand name. They were on sale at Home Depot. Is the only reason I own this. I showed you the Pika marker. That is the one, like I said, people are obsessed with. And the Artline marker. So I did a handful of tests. One of which, and I'll show more in depth here in a sec, one of which is I have a little tiny piece of conduit. This is, let's find out together. The accuracy of it, I've got that figured out, but let's see roughly what it is. It's roughly a 1-inch inner diameter piece of conduit. I just made a slice of it to kind of get a smaller diameter of something you would need to get into kind of thing. So I got that for one test to find out how close you can get inside of this and actually measure it. Because like I said, I've got the actual measurement. The inside diameter of this is 26 millimeters specifically. So my test methodology is how close can this drawing get to 26 millimeters. So say you're cutting a piece of wood to fit into another piece of wood, or cutting a piece of metal, something like that. How close is your line going to be to what you actually need? That's one test. Other test. Got my little knockoff woodpecker little right angle jobby here. Nothing special, just a little guy. And what I use this for is this has a little cutout channel in it here you can get into, and there's a little bit of depth to it, and then you get out into that channel, so it's a little bit of a tight space to get into just to see how close you can get in it. And the interest I had in this is the thickness of this bar here. How close can we get a line on each side of that bar to how thick that actually is, to see another way of how close can it get to actually measuring what you're trying to do. And a lot of this is just basically, if you're tracing something, be it, like I said, woodworking, metalworking, anything, how close are you going to get to what you actually need? Because it's kind of useless. I mean, you could have a bingo marker in the middle of something, but it's not any real world measurement of what you're actually going to need. So this is just how closely can you trace something without just like shooting a can of spray paint at it and coating the whole thing. Yeah, you're going to get right up to it, but everything's covered in spray paint. So it's just kind of my methodology. And there is a lot to what do I prefer, what one is the prettiest, what one's the cheapest, what one is the coolest, all that good stuff. These are just quantifiable, this is fact kind of measurement. These are not opinions. This is the things I could come up with that actually might make a difference in somebody's life. Comparing head to head. If you, both of them are free and you picked one up versus the other, which one are you going to want? So yeah, so that's my test methodology. So I'll show you right here. So here's what I did. Conduit. Making a circle around the inside of it. These are my different tests for each one of the various markers and such. The inside diameter of this, I measured out to be 26 millimeters, pretty darn close. For my particular quality instruments here, aka the cheapest ones you can buy, 26 millimeters, cool. And as long as I'm using the same measurement tool, it's going to be relative, so it'll make sense. 26 millimeters is the goal. That's my try to beat here. Pencil, close as I could get to it. We'll try and get this measured out. Pretty darn diggity close. Okay, pencil measured out at 25, so it's basically a millimeter off. And a millimeter might not sound like a ton, and if you're doing rough woodworking, it really doesn't matter. But if you're trying to fit a plug or something like that, it's not right. So pencil so far is the one to beat at 25. Let's actually write all that down. 25. The fine tip Sharpie. Get as close as we can get here. And mind you, these are normal guy, real world, not super ultra machinist kind of measurements, so not a lot to go on there. Okay, this I have pretty much 26, fairly dead on, like it's a little bit over, but I think that the inside of that's a little bit over, so we're probably pretty darn close on that one. So far, that's the one to beat. Okay, the Milwaukee. This one just kind of bled everywhere, but it worked. That, I'm at 27 there. It just bled so far that measurement, that's not going to fit. If you're trying to put 27 millimeters into 26 millimeters, that's not going to work out. So that one's kind of a loser because you're going to have to sit and fine-tune your piece and fine-tune your piece. And yes, it's not cut under, but over that much is not good either. Pica marker. Pica measures out to also 27. It's getting pretty rough. So the Pica marker, 27. Artline marker. 26, pretty much on the dot. So cool. 26. So basically it looks like in that particular test, my fine tip Sharpie and the Artline marker are the two winners. And those head to head seem to be pretty dead on for size wise. That's something that the cost is, I think the Artline is more expensive, but they're kind of in the same ballpark. The little fine tip Sharpies can be kind of expensive from time to time. So they're same ballpark. Regular the fine tip Sharpie's cheaper, but it's not night and day difference. Okay. So this was the goal of measuring the thickness of that wall. So it's trying to basically have to set it down, draw a line as close as possible to each side, and that's my measurement. So we're shooting for 3 millimeters. So this measured, let me measure it one more time before I tell you wrong. That measured, I do believe I have so much overspray paint on this, it's terrible. I need to buy a new one of these. Okay, so measuring, my brain tells me 3 millimeters, just a touch over, but 3 millimeters essentially. Okay, so from here, we're going to go how far apart these are. So if I were to cut these lines, would this fit the same? Insides of those lines, right there. I am at almost 6. So that's almost 6 millimeters. So if I cut on those lines perfectly, that's almost 6 millimeters. It's almost twice the width. And that's with a construction pencil. That's how close I could get with it. So that one is pretty much a fail right off the bat. Okay, fine tip Sharpie. And we're cutting just like you would cut normally, where you cut the lines off. That one, I got about 3.5. So that one's looking real good so far. The Milwaukee, more brand name-ish or not brand name-ish Sharpie. Cutting those lines completely off to get to the inside of them. Four millimeters. So looking surprisingly good for the Milwaukee, but not right, but surprisingly good. Okay, so 4 millimeters there. Now the Pika marker. Pika, I am at just a touch over 3. I'm going to call that 3 because it's pretty darn close. That might be 3 1/4 or less, but we'll call it 3. Okay, so that one's looking really good. Now the Artline marker. Get into the insides of both sides. Okay. I am at almost 4. So looking not the top of the heap there, but not terrible once again, but not the top of the heap. And my methodology for that was taking the square, putting it down, drawing a line, drawing a line. That's how I got that. Matter of fact, let's double verify my test methodology and see if it's the same. Should be. Yep, same. Okay, cool. So that's where I can get with that. Past that, it's hard to test something like this, just as far as what would even be a measurable thing that would matter to anybody kind of thing. Because it gives you an idea here. Essentially, we're looking for the first test here. The fine Sharpie and the Artline made the best inside circle. So, getting inside of the circle here, drawing around it. Inside circle. As you can see, like the pencil, it's awkward and it doesn't fit super well in here, and it'll make a circle, but it's not the same size as the inside of this. So that's where I went off for those various test methodologies. So let me give you some more thoughts as far as why I prefer one versus the other, all that good stuff. As you can see with the Pica marker, nice removable cap, which everybody loves. That's great. The tip on it, while it doesn't seem big at all, it bleeds super bad. And I'm kind of surprised on it because, like, tip size realistically, head to head, they're not much different. And the Pika might even be smaller. The Pika is smaller now that I'm looking at it. But the ink control with the Artline is 10 times better. Because you got a straight line and a straight line. And you can see the Pika just puts out so much more ink, which you might prefer that. I don't. I would rather know my fine line versus a fatter line. And that's one thing everybody uses, the marking knives and stuff. I've never been a marking knife person, but I'm probably missing out. It's probably all me. But the fatter line is, to me, going to be always less optimal than the slimmer line. So if I can get a slimmer line that still puts out a nice solid dark line that you can see, no question, I don't see why I wouldn't. And to me, the line quality is the same as just a fat tip Sharpie or like this Milwaukee Sharpie. Like, I don't see the point in that as far as an accuracy things go. There's not really much of a difference. And as you can see on the inside there, the Pika and the Milwaukee, they both bled so much that they both are giving an off measurement from what they should be. So yeah, so that's kind of where my test methodology went for trying to figure out one versus the other and any sort of qualities that made them different. So now we'll get down to just kind of what I prefer as far as anything that makes a difference one way or the other. Everybody's used construction pencils forever, so that's nothing new to anybody. As far as what products I've used the most, Sharpies are great. They have their purpose. This Milwaukee Sharpie, it's great. I use it to mark stuff. It's a quick, handy marker, and it makes a good, solid line, and it's something that you can abuse them, and you don't really care too much about them. Great. Fine tip Sharpies, for the price, they're great. I do think they dry out kind of quick, which is weird, and I can't say one way or the other if the Artline or the Pika will dry out super quick or never at all. I don't know, because I haven't done it for long enough, but I do know that the fine tip Sharpies tend to dry out and get a little crusty on you pretty quick. And I can't speak for the durability of the tip on a fine Sharpie. So far they've held up well, but I don't use them often enough to really use and abuse them enough to give you a one way or the other. So somebody out there probably has a better knowledge of these than I do, and if you know, leave them in the comments. Great, appreciate you. As far as the Pika marker, this is the one that everybody gets real excited over for some reason, specifically the Pika deep hole marker. This is Adam Savage recommends these, all this good stuff. It's become kind of a DIY channel, pop culture kind of thing. People make a big deal over the fact that you can leave this clipped in somewhere and use it just like a holster. It's nice, but it really doesn't fascinate me that much. But people love them, and there's definitely something to mention for that. I mean, like that's a thing that if it's got enough support behind it, there's got to be a reason. But these are also not cheap. I found them just via like Amazon and eBay and things like that, which of course we'll post links for it and all that good stuff. But I found them on there, and I want to say they're almost $8 a piece, which, but that includes like shipping and everything. I mean, just get them to you, but they're just expensive. They're nice, but they're expensive. And I really don't think they're that much more fascinating than a fine tip Sharpie for half the price. So like that there's not enough there to interest me. The Artline markers, like I said, these I saw them actually via a Instagram post that somebody had made referencing these. And these are, in Europe, they're evidently readily available. In the US, they're not readily available. There's only one store they could send me to that had a link for it to buy it. They're kind of a hard to find item. I really wish they would put these out in more stores, and I really wish they would petition like the big box stores and stuff to put them out there, because I really do think they're a good product, and I think they have a need. But as far as just availability, they're not the easiest things in the world to get a hold of. specifically the Long-Nib ones. They make, like I said, a whole series of really, really nice art pens and pencils and stuff like that. They sell in art stores, and they're great. They're just not what I need. But this one seemed to be a good deal. And he had mentioned in the UK these sell relatively cheap, like a buck or two a piece, kind of cheap. Here they're more expensive than that, but they're still only, I want to say like $4 or $5 from what I last looked at. So they're more of a premium, but if it's a product you have use for, that's not terrible, and it's half the price of the Pica. So that interested me flat out. And just the whole thing is smaller than a Pica, like it feels better in the hand. I like it. I think it's a good product. They sent me a handful of them for free just to test them out. Sent me in blue and black. They sell blue and black of both. They might sell other colors, but they sent me a blue and black. It's something that I'll be using these as my day-to-day. You'll see them in videos. You've already seen them in a video or two. You'll see them in other videos. These will be my day-to-day. And after these eventually go dead, which once again, I can't speak to the longevity of them, but they seem to be a solid product. So we'll see how long they last. But when they eventually go dead, I'll be buying more. I mean, this will be my switched up to go-to. And if they, for any reason, would be like they're dead after a month kind of thing, I'll let you know that too. I'll put an update on this. But assuming they last anything like any of these other markers, which I expect they will, this will definitely be my go-to. I think they're a reasonable priced item and they're good quality. The tip seems really, really good because it's not felty. It's solid. They have a weird combination of the tips are more solid than they seem, which is odd because like a regular Sharpie, we've all done it where you write once and a nice fine tip and everything becomes just a curved over mass that you just kind of scribble on. These seem weird because they look like a felt tip, and for all I know they might be, but they feel almost like you're writing with a hard tip. If you've ever used a paint marker before that has the little hard tip that you spring load and you push it down, it's kind of like that, but it looks like a felt tip rather than just being like a piece of plastic. It's a weird product. Very cool though. It seems like it'll hold up, but I personally will be switching to these, and not just because it sent me free ones, because I genuinely think this is a better product. I'd rather buy 2 of these than 1 of these any day. But like I said, if anything changes on that, I'll update you. Okay, so that being said, they also sent me some different examples of other products they make. And these were almost more interesting than the ones I originally got interested in. And I'll try and get a close-up shot of all this various stuff that they shipped over. They have kind of a cool series of construction stuff. For being an art company, they make kind of a wide variety of stuff. The one that first me and Dan opened up to try out, because we tried a handful of these out, and the one we first opened up is a concrete marker. This is a concept that I never really even thought about being a thing. It just looks like a marker, like it's just like everybody's got the kind of cheap markers, a little bit flatter head. Just looks like a marker. It doesn't look like anything special, but it works almost like a paint pen. That's got the spring-loaded tip, and the tip on it doesn't mash down when you write on super rough concrete. Dan got very excited about it and wrote right on the front of his house. I'm waiting for his wife to see it, but it was awesome. But yeah, it writes right on concrete, and they advertise on the front of it. It says instant drying. They're not kidding. You wipe your finger across it, it's dry. Like I don't get how that dries that fast, but it really genuinely does. It's a cool product. And if you are somebody in construction that works anywhere near concrete, these would be a solid purchase. I have no idea what they cost. I'll try and find a link for it somewhere. But yeah, they're super cool. It's like it's a product I never thought that there was a need for. That there's a need for. Like, it's awesome. So yeah, super weird product, and it doesn't just like the tip looks like we've never written on anything. And he wrote a whole bunch on the front. So like he wrote on some chunked up concrete in his front walk that needs replaced, and just kind of wrote over that. And they wrote on the cinder block right on the front of his house, and wrote on his garage floor. And it looks like you never used it. Like, it really holds up well. It's cool. Other ones they offer are general purpose marker in red and black. So just general, like kind of Sharpie type guys, but my guess is they probably have the same tip on them. They have builder's markers specifically. These were kind of cool. That they have these in white and black. Their specific qualities they advertise are writes on various surfaces and UV resistant. UV resistant is cool because that means it won't fade. Because like just you have marker that you're working on a construction site or something, it's sitting out all summer being worked on. Markers tend to fade. This shouldn't fade. So that's kind of a cool item. Then they have the Artline exterior marker. This one, I'm very interested to get more experience with these. They're just kind of cool. Writes on wood, plastic, metal, and stone. Advertised UV resistant and instant drying. And it's cool. They're kind of like a weird hybrid between paint markers and regular markers. They're cool. Then they also have furniture markers. Everybody's seen these at some point in time where they match the color of scuffed up furniture and things like that, which is a good product to have just in general, but these ones seem extra interesting. And the part that struck me specifically interesting about these is they advertise them not as like light brown, dark brown, but they advertise them as the wood species, which is super cool because then it's a no-brainer that this should match that. The 8 they sent me, it's 2 different 4-packs. The 8 they sent me were mahogany, oak, walnut, maple, black, which would match the darker part of the veins in the wood, black, ash, birch brown, and beech. So just cool products. Kind of one of those things you don't know you need it till you need it kind of things. So I'm looking forward to getting more experience with all this. The Long-Nib markers were the one that was the original interest. The rest of these are just icing on the cake. It's a cool product line, and I look real forward to seeing more of it. Yeah, so that's really, like I said, I was stressed about this video because it's a marker, and what do you say about a marker? I mean, it's a marker, but they really have a cool product. I mean, it's a neat, good product. And as I mentioned in the very beginning of this, they sent me these for free. These ones in front of you. There's nothing else after this. Like, this is it. This is what I got. And these are just for review, and I told them flat out, if I don't like your product, I'm going to tell my people that I don't like your product. But if I do like your product, I want to share that with people at the idea of this might be something that interests you. I mean, if you're already a Pika user, this might be a cheaper alternative you might want to look into, and especially if you're Europe side of things. From what I gather, these are readily available, and it might be something you've never tried but might want to try. Give one a shot. So yeah, it's a cool product line, and I'm looking forward to getting more experience with it. You'll see it in a lot more videos because, like I said, that's going to be my standard day-to-day use kind of item. So yeah, Artline markers, a cool product, and I look forward to using them more and more. And I hope this is something that you found that maybe you can give a shot. It's cool. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you paying attention to my long-winded conversation here. Don't forget, like, subscribe. We like sharing with you stuff. I mean, it's whether it's a project or whether it's a cool little find like this, just anything we can share with you that might benefit you as well as it's benefited me. I mean, I found something new that I like. Maybe it's something new you like too. So yeah, like, subscribe. See you on the next one. I appreciate you.